All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome into today's edition of In the Game. I am your host, Hustle, and as always, we'll be diving into the NFT gaming metaverse landscape as I'm joined by Unioverse today. I'll be joined by Grant and Wyeth from Unioverse, the future of franchise entertainment from the storytellers and world builders of Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, Star Trek, and more. So I'm super stoked to get into everything that they're delivering to the market. So without further ado, let's get in the game.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start.
You hear the hustle, why is you here? But if you hear the hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know you don't play, but ain't a percent. If you ain't here to hustle, why is you here? But if you here to hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know you don't play, but ain't a play. If you get lost, show you the way.
All right, let's get right into it. Be sure to drop down and hit the like button if you enjoy the show, if you are bullish on the future of the metaverse, NFT gaming, and Unioverse as well. And be sure to subscribe to the channel for daily videos here on Crypto Banter every single day. Quick shout out to our sponsors here on In the Game. Animoca Brands, the biggest Web3 gaming company in the world. Myria, one of the leading GameFi developers in the entire space. Unix, one of the leading GameFi infrastructures in the entire industry. MEXC, the official exchange of the In the Game show. And Spintop, the official gaming index of the In the Game show. Let's go ahead and bring on Wyeth and Grant from Unioverse. Guys, how are you doing today?
Doing well.
Hey.
Thanks for joining me. I know y'all are super busy and y'all have a lot going on behind the scenes with the project. And I know whenever I spoke to you, Grant, on a Twitter space almost a month back, it feels like at this point, time just flies in this space. That was my first exposure to the project and everything you guys are building. So I'm excited to maybe get it out to a little wider audience as well here on our show and just be able to dive into it from two of the minds behind the project.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited to chat with you because on that Twitter space, as you were mentioning, our backgrounds are really closely identical. So it's really cool to chat with you and to establish this relationship.
For sure. And then I know, Wyeth, your background speaks for itself. So I'll just kind of let both of you guys kind of take the floor real quick and introduce yourselves and then how it brought you to this industry, right? So go ahead, and if you want to individually, whoever wants to go first, Grant or Wyeth.
I usually like to go first in this situation because I can never follow up with what Wyeth does before me because my background is like this compared to Wyeth. It's like he's on another level. So let me just give you my little background and before I ramp it up for Wyeth. I come from a Web3 like native background, but before that I was a gamer just like Johnny yourself and loved playing games and competitive Call of Duty and even Fortnite, and then launched a project with Kevin Chu and Mahesh Valanki, now over at SuperLayer, but backed by Andreessen, called Rally.io or Rally Creator Coin. We started the Rally protocol, and then from there, I've been in the NFT gaming space after that since. And so really excited to be working with Wyeth, Tony Harmon, Dave Jones, Paul Wabarski over at Unioverse, creating the first, AAA top tier gaming franchise in the Web3 space. So really excited to be working with all these guys.
Awesome. And then Wyeth?
So I've been 25 years as a CTO in gaming, worked on all sorts of platforms. Most of my career has been working with franchises. So we worked with Pirates of the Caribbean and Star Trek and MLB, just tons and tons of franchise work. And that actually sort of led to our vision for the Unioverse. Tony and I have been trying to work together for years. And when we saw Web3 and NFTs just sort of exploding in 2021, we really started paralleling that to some trends we'd seen previously in huge marketplace changes or shifts in gaming, and we thought this is something we need to work on together. So we came up with this vision for the Unioverse and dragged in Dave Jones and a bunch of other people that have really been at the top of the game industry, and kind of as Grant mentioned, our goal is to basically take a top tier franchise and put it into the NFT space, but in a way that's thoughtful about the value proposition for gamers and the value proposition for game developers. And also sort of as a reactionary follow-up to our experiences in the industry working with franchises where they're very encumbered and difficult to work with. And one of the great themes about Web3 is, community owned stuff in the form of NFTs. And so we're building a franchise like Star Wars or something like that we are not exactly putting in the public domain, but really making it what we call a community owned franchise and giving everyone the ability to build with it, powered by NFTs, obviously. So yeah, a lot of top tier gamers or game developers that have kind of assembled a huge network of people in Web3, of people, artists, comic books, all sorts of skill sets to build out this franchise vision.
I absolutely love it. And what better industry than, Web3 decentralization to bring this type of a franchise to light, and with all the minds behind the project, I'm super excited and I'm just stoked to see what comes out of it. And I want to just kind of go back, and before we dive into Unioverse in full, let's just kind of, where do you guys, I like to ask all the guests that come on the show, where do you guys see the future of the industry going? Wyeth, for example, do you see more people from your side of the industry jumping over in the future and producing and coming up with these creations in the Web3 side of things? Like, what do you hear on that side? Like, where do you guys see the adoption for Web3, franchising, gaming, metaverse? Like, where does this IP type of industry go in the future?
So it's interesting because I'm still seeing a lot of articles in core game industry periodicals saying NFTs are dead, it's all over, nobody wants them. And I think there's maybe a 30% of that industry that wants that to be the case. But my perspective on it, and I think I speak for a lot of people in our company, is a vision, is that this is inevitable. Like this, there are going to be highly, highly successful projects that combine games and NFTs. Is it going to be in every game? Absolutely not. But some of these games will provide overwhelming value back to the consumer as to why there's purpose and utility in NFTs and why they're so revolutionary. When I give sort of my pitch to the mainstream game audience, I often say, imagine that you have a sword or a character or something that you would normally think of in your MMO, but instead of it being locked to that one game and owned in a Web2 context, owned by Activision or whoever, it's now a thing with a history and a provenance and can move from game to game with you. And you can go to open marketplaces and translate that. That they at least kind of get it. But when some game, the game that creates a platform validity, like we always look for a game that made Nintendo who they are and made their platform sell, a game that made the PlayStation sell. At some point we need that game or games that's going to happen in the NFT space that just brings all of the people. And there's a lot of little problems that need to be solved there in terms of onboarding, making some of these more digestible and palatable for the broader gaming audience. But it's going to happen. And, standing here today, is it going to happen in 2 years, in 5 years? I don't know, but it's absolutely going to happen. And it's going to be disruptive to existing marketplaces like Apple and Steam and everywhere, that you're gaming.
100% agree. Grant?
Yeah, no, I will completely echo what Wyeth is saying, but I also agree. I also want to point out, we are already seeing big people and small people already go into it, right? In different magnitudes, right? You have your Wyeths, you have your Tony Harmons, but you also have your Dr. Disrespects. You have your different creators that are going. 100 Thieves did something very interesting last year, right? Where they allowed a community, their community, to just redeem a collectible in a way, right? An NFT. It was a free NFT. You just clicked on it, you got the chain, right? The 100 Thieves chain that was so coveted after. And so I think when you start seeing things like that, that just is your North Star, right? It's very small breadcrumbs to the big picture, but I think you're already seeing it. You just are not seeing it in the magnitude that's probably going to be in your 10 to 15 years. I think you're going to see it maybe even before that. I also think what translates well to a lot of gamers, and Johnny, you and I spoke about this before, is the ownership aspect of it, right? And when you play a game like a Call of Duty franchise or a Star Wars franchise or even Fortnite now, do you really own what you purchase? And I think, that question, it was never asked years ago, but now it's being asked. And I think you're starting to see, people want to own items and skins, and they don't want to buy Darth Vader in every other game, right? They don't want to have to go to Fortnite and buy Darth Vader there. Then they have to go to a different game where Darth Vader maybe makes an appearance, and you have to buy him there. You should be able to own Darth Vader as an NFT or in a skin or an avatar, and be able to take him to various different games that he's featured in. And so that's one thing I think is very unique about this transition as we're moving forward.
Yeah, and people kind of also catching on to the way that the revenue model switched from free to play, but it's not free to play at all with the battle passes, the skins, everything that's in your face all day with the buy the virtual currency inside the game. It's basically decentralization. It's like decentralized currency models within, the centralized models and the revenue models of a gaming studio, for example, with the way that they term Call of Duty, like the COD points, which are basically a digital currency.
Exactly right.
That's all it is. So,
yeah. And I think you're definitely seeing on like an item shop. You bring that up. It's really good, aspect of it. I remember being in like playing Fortnite and Apex Legends still, like where you would wait for every hour of the item shop to like refresh. Like you're waiting to buy things on an hourly basis almost. And then, excuse me, sorry, dealing with the cold. You would see like the locker change every once in a while, which is crazy. And you would just keep buying those skins every couple of hours, which is awesome for them. Obviously, they're making a ton of money.
Yeah, exactly. But there's no power to the players. And that's what I think Web3 technology brings. And so in you guys' words, whoever wants to take the floor first, and I kind of want to let you guys describe Unioverse to someone who may have never had exposure to the project or the ecosystem. What exactly is Unioverse in you guys' own words?
Yeah, I'll take that. So when I talk about what the Unioverse is, it's more front focused on community ownership of an IP than it is anything Web3. Web3s and NFTs are the enabler that makes this a workable business model. But ultimately, it goes back to this idea that there's a lot of game developers out there, like the company I've run for 20 plus years, where in order to work with a license, you need to go bid to get the license. You need to pay upfront these things we call minimum guarantees. Then you need to pay a royalty on every single transaction. And then every time you build anything, like we just came off of a WWE product, you build an asset and then you have to send it for multiple approvals of the franchise. At any point in time, they can say, no, we don't like that, go rebuild it. And so there's a lot of friction points and difficulty getting your hands on an intellectual property. And it's very expensive, and it ends up being, sometimes a make it or break it gamble that, a game developer will take. And the same thing, works with franchising all over the place. What our vision is, well, what if, as Tony often says, he doesn't own Grand Theft Auto. He made that, and the publisher ended up owning it. Like these franchises that are built often end up in, megacorp, ownership. It's not like we get to keep it. So if we're not going to keep it, why don't we just go ahead and give it back to the community? So what you'll see on some of our upcoming news articles is how we think that will happen. And it is very much about us saying, here are all these assets. Go use them and do what you want with them. Here's all this story building and lore and these comic books, and it builds up a valuable franchise as a picture that we then challenge people to go ahead and use. And that use is royalty free. So there's a very forward-looking, like we're doing all the work building the foundational pieces, and you go use it. Now, in the subsection of gaming, what we're saying is we're going to provide an SDK, and our SDK for Unity, Unreal is what lets you download these heroes. And inside of games, if you want to make games, you can still use all this stuff royalty-free. We're actually even going to pay people to make games through this game development fund we have. But in that one area, we sort of keep some of the rights to make sure that we're providing all the quality and the content and enabling them to work inside of a franchise that doesn't immediately devalue all of these swords and avatars and whatnot that are in the ecosystem. But the fact that that's an NFT is just an enabling mechanism for us across a whole bunch of game developers to say, hey, this is what utilitarian technology we're using to power this. But ultimately, it's solving this goal of letting us come up with a community-created or community-owned franchise. And the vision for the franchise, you had Brent's bio up here at one point, is really a broad concept like a Star Wars or Dune or Altered Carbon, this broad sense of a sci-fi franchise where many, many games, all sorts of stories can exist. Again, going to that notion of we want to build something for a community where you can have all types of different things going on in it. So it has millions of planets, different races, a very open environment for people to create within.
I love it. And what I love the most is the complete vision. It's all it is bringing a business model to the blockchain. The blockchain's only the technology that enables it.
Exactly.
It is a layer on top, exactly how it should be. I think that whenever something pushes that side in your face, no, it's just literally business models can be better optimized and more freely flowing within the Web3 economy and community-owned franchising. And I think that that's brilliant. So, Grant, let's just go back to what you were saying with bringing Darth Vader world to world. Is that something that you would say that, you know, looking at what the Unioverse is putting together, is that something that you guys would eventually like to be able to have your IP hopping in different worlds, for example?
I think look at it like this. With the better way to say it is the various games that we come out with, and even the ecosystem of game devs that are building with our SDK. Look at it when you own the avatar from the Unioverse, you will not have to worry about getting that same exact avatar in another person's game, or don't worry about us coming out with a separate game. They go, hey, look, you got this avatar in one game, but now you have to get your same avatar in a different game that we made. That's one thing I'm just super excited on. And I'm on the core team, right? I cannot wait to own an avatar from the Unioverse, and I get to take it everywhere I go and play any game that we create, and not only that we create, but even our game dev ecosystem creates. That's one thing that I think a lot of people are going to be really excited on. And I always love using Wyeth's sword analogy and example. I kind of now take that, but where he says, you know, what, you own this sword, right? You don't want to have different levels of this sword. You want to actually own the sword that you own, right? Yeah. And so that's one unique thing that I think is going to be able to really, you know, speak to the gamers of Web 2 and Web 3, and even some of the NFT, you know, enthusiasts that are maybe not thinking about gaming, but this is something unique to them.
Yeah, I know it's early, but what kind of game can players expect? And I know there's going to be multiple ecosystem games based off the conversations. Like, what kind of gameplay loops or genres can players kind of expect to hop into?
So what we're doing is building something that's amenable to a broad set of games. And I think we have 8 or 10 that we sort of use as regular touch points of, could this exist inside of this franchise? Those are all generally in the multiplayer co-op and versus realm. But some of them, for example, are everything from like a Mario Kart to, you know, an Apex Legends to Rocket League, right? Any sort of X-Wing type of ship-based things. We do talk often about hero characters, but there's no reason the hero can't be inside of a vehicle. Right. And that vehicle is also something. There's games like League of Legends where you might have to have several characters. Star Wars Battlefront, you know, anything where you're playing with friends, either co-op or versus. Back 4 Blood, or a lot of people, more people played Left 4 Dead. That type of game can exist inside of the ecosystem. So what you'll see actually, okay, I don't have an exact leak date, but very soon what you're going to see is our avatars, which have a visual rarity model. You could kind of parallel to PFPs, but obviously they're fully 3D rigged, you know, animated characters. You're going to see them going through this thing we call the danger room, which is kind of our testing ground to prove that your avatar could be used for all sorts of types of gameplay. So you'll see navigating, you'll see them using, you know, different types of weaponry, navigating different types of obstacles. And really that's just the front line of us challenging developers to, here's what we're giving you. Look at how amazing it looks and how functional it is. What can you come up with? You know, what type of game can you come up with to use it? So I don't think there's any boundary to that. Is anyone going to play like a, you know, 40-hour single-player story-based game in the Unioverse? I'm not sure. You know, it can certainly exist, and you know, if the community wants it, there. Yeah. You know, if somebody wants it, someone will build it. From the games that we build initially, and we're committed to building the first 3 games, and then like letting developers go wild. You can expect co-op and versus multiplayer games like the ones I'm mentioning.
Okay, fantastic. No, I think that's great. And based on the website, whenever you go to the developers tab, are you guys open to, you know, discussing with outside devs, obviously, to come and build within the Unioverse or build with the Unioverse?
So before we publicly open it, we'll be sort of working with relationships that we have to, you know, with third-party game devs. So basically, we're the front line to test everything. When we're building it and successful, we'll drag some, you know, close partnerships in and be working very hands-on with them. And then that's what gives us the confidence further out to say, here's the SDK, anyone can use it. It's all troubleshooted. By the way, we'll also be releasing the code for our projects. So when we say we're, trying to give developers everything they need to be successful, it's
fantastic.
the whole gambit, right? We literally want people to pick these pieces up and easily build things that they otherwise would not be able to build.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. And it makes it seamless for someone who is just good at making games to be able to come in and use the stack and be able to get involved in the industry and everything that you guys are doing. I think it's fantastic. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, to touch on that, just, someone that is really good at making games, even that sounds so simplified, but when you think about it from a go-to-market or even a UA perspective, if you're really good at making games, that's like a tenth of what you really need to be good at in terms of making a game. Because then you got to worry about the financial, then you got to worry about UA, then you got to worry about the marketing. It's like, hey, we've given you everything, right? We've given you everything that you need to make this game. And you already have users because they own the avatars. They own the weapons. They own the vehicles. All these things that are coming out, which is really cool, I think.
Let me rant for a second on user acquisition, because it is such a pain point for most game developers.
Yep.
I don't know that consumers are that aware of this, but user acquisition, just wasn't really a thing the way that it is now 10 years ago. The statistic from 2021 was, I think, $23 billion were spent by game developers on user acquisition. And that is just this giant vacuum of money that doesn't contribute to making your game better at all, but, just vacuums up money and takes it out of the industry. So one of our goals here, to what Grant's saying, is if we can come to the game development community and say, here's an audience, high value content, and all of the tools you need to make a game, and you don't need to build a game and then go mortgage your house to, get your user acquisition spend to hope that you get enough visibility on Apple Store, to actually make your game successful. We're saying we've already brought that to the table. Let us worry about the user acquisition. Here are all the users hungry for content. So, that user acquisition spend, and it's just going up year after year after year. Trying to mitigate that to a significant degree means that every dollar that a consumer is actually willing to spend, so much more of that money gets actually back to the game developer to actually make the game better, right? It doesn't leak out of the industry. And that should be a fundamental difference.
Yeah. And like you said, like Grant said, it's 1/10 of what it takes. And then, like you said, the amount that it takes to get your game exposure on a platform like the App Store, Google Play, Steam, for like 90% of Steam games have like less than a player base of 5 monthly actives. I'm pretty sure is the stat. Like, it is not easy to just make a game and make it successful if you don't have every bit of, either tech or the marketing strategy, everything at your disposal. And I love, that you guys are bringing that once again to the table. And I wanted to kind of go into something that Grant sent me before the show, a little bit of alpha. Grant, you want to give some details on what we're looking at here?
There we go. Yeah, Wyeth will also be able to chime in on this a lot too. I mean, he is the mastermind behind a lot of this. But what I want to show you this is, I'm going to speak about it from like a GTM community, what it means, because I think that's very important to distinguish. And then I think Wyeth is really good at giving the gaming background on this and the gamified aspect of this. What you're looking right here is a Unioverse collectible. And the reason why this is very unique is because this is what we're kicking off actually starting this week with our Legends only in our Discord. But starting next week, it'll be fully public. And so how this will work is we'll actually tweet out a link or feature it in our Discord. And this collectible will be live for 30 minutes. And so for 30 minutes, anybody, including our community and yours, will be able to jump in there and be able to redeem this collectible through our Mint site, our Unioverse site. The really cool thing about this is I'm really passionate about the Web3 side of things. I think this is a very unique way to merge gaming and gamified culture in the gaming with Web3. And so what we're actually going to do is, based off of the next 10 or so weeks leading up to our Genesis Mint come Q1 of 2023, is a ranking up mechanism for users and community members to be able to grant to that whitelist, right? And so we see this grind for whitelist, but it doesn't really translate to a very, efficient community project, right? And an outcome. And so what we want to do is we actually want to reward people and our community members through collectibles. And then they get to own a piece of the Unioverse franchise, the early storytelling. And so I think this is a really cool way to do this. You know, we saw this on the Solana side with different ways to get whitelist with like DGods and Utes, right? Utes had to fill out an application. And so that was a very unique spin on things. But there's a way to even kind of hurdle that, right? Where you're actually not getting a whitelist, you're getting a whitelist and then people were selling them. And there was actually some weird stuff going on with that. And so this is a really cool way to say, hey, look, like you own a piece of a collectible. You own a collectible. It's a piece of the storytelling of the franchise. And on top of that, as you continue to rank up, you'll be able to actually combine these to get exclusive legendary ones, other collectibles that others may not have. And so this will actually increase your ranking. And once you keep going up to that ranking, you might get exclusive different avatars with different skins, whitelist, etc. So really excited. But I'm sure Wyeth will have some extra commentary on that as well.
Very cool. I love it. Wyeth?
I mean, I don't know, Grant. You did pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it was very well described.
I didn't know we were actually showing this. Someone's probably going to be upset with the linking. Nobody's actually minted one, so the link that you see right there is just a test mint. But yeah, I mean, I would just restate what he's saying. He kind of hit all the salient points. This is about rewarding people to be engaged in our community. Right? So if you're paying attention, if you're hanging out in our Discord, following us on Twitter, you're going to see these free mints come up. We're even paying the gas. All you have to do is pay attention. If you collect these, the more of them the more diligently you collect them, the more you can combine them, the more you can get these super rare ones. It all ties back into a ranking system, which ultimately will have provenance inside of Discord and elsewhere. But really what we're doing is just saying, hey, pay attention, participate. Sure. You know, if you're in a Discord, do some meme art, do some whatever, you know, like participate in the community. The people who participate the most will be the happiest. And we are going to be revealing almost like encyclopedic storytelling elements, you know, through these collectibles. So they are fascinating in and of themselves. And it all ties into our arc to help explain to the community what this is. But really, it's just a gamification of, you know, how do we engage with our community? How do we reward people in our community for actually being engaged with us?
Yeah, for sure. Grant, you sacrificed it all today. I appreciate you for getting.
I might not have a job. What it sounds like is I might not have a job tomorrow, probably because I leaked something too early.
Hey,
in all fairness, it's coming out very soon, though.
Hey, I think it's awesome. Like, I'm super stoked to just hear this theory, right? Like, this is super gamified. Like, whenever you can get your hands on these, you have those windows of time to be able to do so. And then over time, as you mentioned, you can put them together. Like, that's going to be amazing. And that's super gamified. I know that the audience here is going to absolutely appreciate that, Alpha. And I'm stoked. So where can people, get involved with Unioverse, Discord, Twitter? Where can they find Unioverse? And then how can they be on the lookout for more information regarding this? Yeah,
head over to our socials, twitter.com, obviously, /the Unioverse. It's at the Unioverse. And then our Discord's also in that bio. I think, stay connected with Wyeth on Twitter, Wyeth Ridgeway, and then myself, Grant Web3. And so, we're excited to be releasing more. Here's our Twitter right here. We actually got a huge shout out. Wyeth and Gabriel Ledon from Gaku have been having a lot of conversations about the space. And I think, I'll kind of give a huge shout out to Wyeth. Wyeth and Gabriel seem to be like a very interesting pair in the space right now. And I think it's very unique to see someone like Wyeth, who's really conquered a lot of the Web2 gaming side and on the platform side. And then Gabriel, obviously, with his game, what was the game that he created? Something of Game of War, something like that, on the mobile side of things, right? And so I think you're starting to see big time people talk about this, and Wyeth has been talking about a lot on his Twitter. So definitely stay tuned for some of his tweets. In Discord, we're actively, always in Discord. We have a huge Discord, and it's growing. We were about 2 weeks ago, we were at 5,000, and now we're almost coming up to 11 to 12,000. So we've been growing very quickly, and we're very excited to keep building this Unioverse community.
Amazing. And then anything you guys want to leave off with before we wrap it up?
Oh, let me just go. If you go back to that leaked NFT, let me just point out, we have an amazing team of people working on this. That art piece is from Stuart. He did a bunch of the art for I'm blanking. Go look at his art station. He's an amazing concept artist. And Brent Friedman is one of our storytellers. They're working together in concert to make some of these pieces that are, just breathtaking. fast forward about 30 days from now when a bunch of these are released, and you'll be able to scroll through OpenSea and just see all of these storytelling elements. It's really going to be quite something. So, kudos to them for just coming up, and the rest of the team too, for just coming up with amazing content to help kickstart this. And the flagship piece on our landing page, which is that's Ryu, a character. If you play around in Discord, you'll see a bunch of movies of him. You'll see him running around in our game engine, and Krisha, our second hero. There's just some amazing content coming out of this team, and so please pay attention.
And Johnny, if you scroll down a little bit, I encourage anybody that's watching, if you want a little bit more information, and that's on Twitter, if you go to our pinned tweet over here, you actually see another version of a collectible there. So if you click on that thread, you can definitely read up on that. So that I wanted to just provide that for you guys as well. So go check that out.
Yeah, I would definitely say to pay attention if you are out there. I would, and it's early. Like you guys,
completely free and early. You're not too late.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, how? Just last question: how long has this been in development? I haven't asked that throughout the conversation.
So this went from a conversation Tony and I had probably September of last year.
Okay.
To forming the company, I believe in December. These dates might not be quite right. And then getting a small seed round from, close industry relationships. And then we announced our actual funding round maybe 60 days ago or so. But, we've been growing the team really since January, February of this year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome to see the quality that's coming out in such good time. And I love everything you guys are doing. So definitely,
thanks so much.
If you're out there watching, like the video. If you're bullish on Unioverse, leave your comments down below on what you think regarding the entire project and the minds behind the project. I mean, how could you? I'm a big proponent of bet on people and not promises. Everyone can say they can do X, Y, Z, but what have they produced? And I think the team is top tier, to say the least, as well. So be sure to like the video, comment down below, and subscribe for more daily videos here on Crypto Banter. I'll be back tomorrow with another show. As always, guys, play well, my friends.